This is Ned Kelly country. Here, my son Andy and I will be taking a road trip through Victoria to discover the life and times of Ned Kelly. Our first stop is in Beveridge, at this dilapidated house where Ned Kelly grew up. Here, in Beveridge, in 1859, the Kelly family moved to this house, where Ned Kelly's father, John Red Kelly, built this structure. He was a carpenter by trade, and he tried to invest his money in finding gold. He was unsuccessful and fell into serious debt, and they were forced to move to Avenel because he could not pay his debt back. This is Avenel, where the Kelly family moved when Ned Kelly was 8 years old. And behind me is the courthouse. Here, John Red Kelly, Ned's father, was tried for possession of stolen goods, being cowhide, and he was given 4 months in prison. Later on, John Red Kelly died from alcohol poisoning, and he was buried at the cemetery over there. This is Hughes Creek. Now, as you can see, there is no water running through it at the moment due to a very long drought. This old stone bridge was around in Ned Kelly's time.
This is a green sash Ned Kelly was awarded by Richard Shelton's parents. Richard Shelton was 7 years old when Ned saved him from drowning at Hughes Creek in Avenel. We will learn about the significance of the sash that Ned was awarded for his heroic act later. Soon after the death of Ned's father, the Kelly family left Avenel to purchase 360 hectares of farmland at Half Mile Creek, near Greta. This is where young Ned began his life of crime. He and his family were accused, but not convicted, of stealing cows and horses. At the age of 14, Ned made acquaintance with Harry Power. This was a meeting that would shape Ned's future, as his life as a bushranger began. This is a Harry Powers lookout. Harry Powers was a bushranger who taught Ned Kelly, befriending him when he was just 15 years old. Harry Powers was known as a gentleman bushranger due to the fact that he only took small bounties. He didn't take money from people who he deemed unable to afford it, and he'd never killed anyone. He spent 30 years of his 72 years in jail, sentenced to 7 years and deportation to Tasmania for stealing a pair of shoes. By today's standards, that would have been deemed a little bit on the harsh side, I reckon. This was his lookout, one of his many camps he had scattered about where he could escape from policemen after raiding coaches and the like. You can see from this viewpoint he would have had a very good view of any travelling people he could rob. He was captured here on a stormy night in 1870. This here is the holding cell of the Beechworth Courthouse. Infamous bushranger Harry Powers made 7 appearances in the Beechworth Courthouse and spent considerable time in these cells. at Her Majesty's pleasure. In 1870, 16-year-old Ned was convicted for various petty crimes and was imprisoned for 6 months in Beechworth Prison. Soon after release, he was sentenced to a further 3 years' imprisonment for receiving a horse, knowing it to have been stolen. In 1874, he was discharged from prison. 4 years later, in April 1878, a police officer named Fitzpatrick went to the Kelly home, hoping to arrest Ned's brother Dan for stealing horses. Fitzpatrick claimed that Ned shot him in the wrist, despite that there is no record of Ned being present at the time. After hearing news of impending arrest for theft and attempted murder, Ned and his brother Dan fled to the Wombat Ranges. Ned's mother Ellen was subsequently arrested for aiding and abetting Ned's alleged crime. In April 1878, Ned's mother Ellen was sentenced to 3 years' incarceration at Beechworth Prison. Rewards of £100 were offered for the arrest of Ned and Dan Kelly, who went into hiding in the Wombat Ranges near Mansfield. They were later joined by Joe Byrne and Steve Hart. The Kelly gang was born.